on this episode of Menstruction. The reality is that it's hard to shop that ideal to the modern woman, especially to the women we have access to at this stage in our lives. It's hard to shop that around because none of them want to hear you are second-rate priority. I'm putting the progress, my personal progress, ahead of everything else. Work, in every sense of the word, comes first. You will always be second. It was a brick by brick and a stone by stone. Rome wasn't built in a day, it wasn't done alone. See, your spirit is the merit and the mind is the home. It takes a whole village to get a child out this home, yes. To be a great man without good instructions, a surefire way to lead a life of destruction. Let's be honest, sit down and tune in. Put an hour of your life into some instruction. Greetings, and salutations, my beautiful souls and spirits. Coming through your airwaves right now is Black Velvet, and this is Menstruction, the place where we provide for you the beneficial bricks to fortify the structure that is you incorporated. Yes, sir, I'm glad to be here. I'm back. We're back. Again, another episode for you. We're going to get right into it. I don't even have a lot to say before we jump into it, but I do want to say I got some fire content coming for you very soon. Working on some new things, some new segments. So I hope you guys will love it. I think you'll love it. I think you will, truthfully. So let's get into it. I got something on my mind. We got to go right into it. So cuffing season is over. Really, it ended last month, February. I believe it's usually from the cold months, right? Somewhere in October to the February, Valentine's Day-ish time. And we already talked about Valentine's Day. So if you haven't listened to that episode, you need to go listen to that. Some gems in there. So great brick. So it's over. Spring is coming. Spring has sprung. Spring is springing. And we are sprung. Hello.
No bars. None. Not a bar.
Who's we? The guys. We out here. I've seen it. Relationships, they're going on and off. People jumping out and people jumping back in. And you know what we jumping in too. That's right. Splish, splash. Okay, I know. And it goes both ways. Ladies out here too, they're looking for the pipe, but no plumbers. Hello. I'm just saying. And so people now, those that are shooters, they're out here shooting. Those who are out here trying to get their clocks cleaned. I said clock. Relax. They're here for the recess. The New Year's 2022. Let's see what we can do, right? So, of course, for those of us out here, especially us guys out here who are working on our grind, who are focusing on our initiatives and missions, we are getting questioned. Hopefully not interrogated, but the question comes up. You talking to somebody? Are you in a relationship? You married? And these questions are not coming from prospective partners. It's coming from people who are either in relationships, usually people of older generations, right? They're asking because you can see it. It's in the air, literally. There's pollen in the air. There's semen in the hair. Okay, I'm sorry. So that's how it's going down. And so you can ask the question. And if you're like me, it's not even something that's really crossing your mind seriously. It's something that you think about, you have thought about, but the priority is progressing. The priority is pushing towards greatness. Doing the best that you can do right now so you can be the you want to be later. Right? You're focused on developing that bag. You're focused on, pursuing your hustle, pursuing your dreams, your aspirations, educational goals, whatever that is. It's grind time 100%. 120% put in the grind category. 3 full-time jobs. That's how I look at it. You have an actual full-time job. In my case, if you're working on your education, that is full-time work. And then whatever it is that you're working on occupationally, side hustles, businesses, whatever, that's full time. So you got 3 full-time jobs. That's priority. I'm working, I'm grinding, I'm getting it. I'm putting in 120 hours a week. I don't have time. I'm putting in 120 hours a week. That's what the focus is. Now, that's great. But what dawned on me and what I was thinking about and what I really want to cover here today is prioritizing the right things. And specifically, just to put it frankly, priorities over punani. Priorities over punani. And I was going to say the other P word, but I was like, you know what? Got to keep it kind of clean. I want to be able to bring in some sponsors at some point. So we got to keep it a little PC. But it is crucial to focus on making sure that you are hitting the priorities for you. Not necessarily putting so much energy up front into the relationship romantic space. And it's really easy to get caught up in the ethos of the manosphere red spill. That's what they should be called, the red pill community. Because, you know, they have these messages of, you know, men first, redefining and reestablishing men's roles, putting women in their place and making sure that they're subjugated, objectified in some cases, really. There's some toxicity in there. But in that, if you're intelligent enough to parse out the nuance, there is some positive messaging out of there, which is focus on your grind. Focus on prioritizing the things that are guaranteed. And see, here's the thing. I feel like at this point in our lives as young men, developing into where we want to be, you're old enough to have had enough time to look back and reflect on the things that you didn't spend time on that you should have, or that you spent too much time on that you shouldn't have. And for a lot of us, at least one of those things is women. But you're also still young enough to be able to look ahead, create a sustainable plan for success, and to still build in some room for improvement and thus failure. Because you're going to miss some things. There's some things that are going to go awry along the way, but you still have enough time to really experiment and implement. And so that's the point that we're at right now. That's the beauty of the position we're in. And personally, I feel like this is just one of the best times in your overall timeline of life to exist, because it's almost one of the most insightful positions to be in. There's a decent amount of time behind you and ahead of you where you can now really get in your bag in more ways than one. But what can happen is you get distracted. And what can happen is you start to focus on the wrong things. And again, with being in the position that we're in, now you find yourself with certain resources that you can maintain relatively well to start entertaining certain enjoyments in life. For some of us, you got enough of that paper, got yourself a whip, right? So you can go where you need to go. And in a lot of cases, you have enough obligations. You need to have that freedom and independence of transportation. So you got yourself a whip. Some of us, depending on where you're at and what your aspirations are, you might have your own place. So now you have to maintain some personal finance. And even if you don't, if you have your own whip, you still got to maintain personal finance, because you have the insurance, gas, any maintenance that needs to be done on the vehicle. So you can do that. And so now you're really starting to get an understanding of, okay, this is what it feels like to be a man. This is some of the preliminary adult stuff that has to be done that I'm now learning for myself, because eventually I'll have to cover this for a family of people, a group of people I'll be responsible for. And me being able to do these base things is going to affect more than just me. But because you don't have those obligations, you can enjoy it a little bit more. And so what comes with that, you get some confidence, you get some awareness, which is extremely important. And you start to develop your skills and abilities. And so all those things increase your market value. But where things can go awry is as that market value starts to go up, which also means that your prospects from the opposite sex start to go up. We get caught up. And then we start to see what we have access to. Because now also being in that almost optimal mid space, you find that you also have access to a wider array of women. And you can, if you really want to swing for the fences and be a baller, and get yourself, someone that's on that cougar type of time. Not recommended, but the access is there. You could also get people that are relatively in your own peer group, and you can also go just a little bit younger. Just a little bit, though, within reason. Do not make your glory statutory.
All right already.
But there's this beautiful sweet spot where now you can almost do a 360 and see it all. And so now you really want to go after it. Now it becomes a game. Now there's that intrigue of how many numbers can I land? How many DMs can I slide in? How many bodies can I take down? And so that becomes a priority. And see, we have to realize that it has to be priority over punani. Punani should not be a priority. And if it is, it should be second rate. It's like Kendrick Lamar said.
Put the pussy on the pedestal. Put the pussy on the high hoops.
You don't put the pussy on a pedestal. You just don't do that. And so now you have to really assess, what's my game plan? What bag do I really need to be getting in? And how do I need to be doing that? Now, I want to talk about myself for a second, because I feel like there are some of you that can relate to this. Currently, at where I stand, my 3 full-time jobs are my actual full-time job, my educational bag, being a student, and working on building a platform, this platform. Those are my 3 full-time jobs. That's what I focus on. Nowhere in those priorities, nowhere am I allocating resources or time to the opposite sex. It is not out of lack of interest. It is not out of a disdain or disregard for women. Because it, of course, crosses my mind all the time. Man, what would it do? It'd be great. Be great to have a little piece of arm candy, of course. Sounds like a beautiful thing, but my time and what I'm willing to dedicate my time to are those 3 full-time jobs. I put 120% grind on those 3 things. And so when I think about why I do not put time, why I'm unwilling to put time into the romantic space, I have to consider priorities. And what I've deduced for myself is I rather put that time and energy and those resources into my 3 full-time jobs. Because for me, putting those resources into those things have guaranteed returns. If I put 10,000 hours into my full-time job, I get paid for those 10,000 hours. So that's a direct return on investment. I'm trading my time for money. If I put 10,000 hours into schoolwork to obtain a degree, I increase my value in the labor force. So now I can strive for, reach out to higher income yielding opportunities have access to a wider network of individuals. And the more degrees I obtain, the more skills I obtain in that educational space, the more of the ability I provide myself to walk into any interview situation and put my nuts on the table and tell them, hey, you're not just going to give me whatever salary you feel like. You're not just going to put me in an entry level position. This is what I want, and this is what I want to get paid. And of course, I'm oversimplifying. I'm aware it's not that easy. You don't just walk in and make demands like that, but you can. You have to put yourself in a position where you can even have those kinds of conversations. I can make that possible by putting my 10,000 hours in to get the degree. If I put 10,000 hours into building this platform out, I have more content. The more content I have, the more that I can push it out to a wider audience. The larger the audience, the more eyes and ears I have on my content, the further I can expand the message. Thus, the more people that I have helped, that I have inspired, enlightened, thus increasing my network, which increases my net worth, and then gives me opportunities to more financial gains, sponsorships, so on and so forth. By putting resources into those things, I get guarantees. There are guaranteed returns on investment for the work I put in. The conclusion that I came to is when you put those resources into women, there is no guarantee. There are possible benefits that you can get. You might find a life partner. You might find someone who's emotionally supportive and nurturing. Someone who will encourage you to grow even more as a man. Challenge you to grow in places that you need to grow. At the very least, give you someone that you feel like will be there through the more difficult steps of life. Possible benefits. But I operate under the understanding that no matter who it is and when you do it, when you step out into that dating world, you are always setting yourself up for risk, high amounts of risk. And it's not that that's a bad thing. That's the norm. Every time you step out, you are taking the risk that you get hurt. You get left. Hopefully you do not get disrespected, but you're taking the risk that you put in time and resources and you don't get anything back. You take a loss. There is no guarantee that there is success. Whereas you have these other avenues that when you put time and resources in, there is a much higher probability you get return on investment. And so then it just becomes a simple matter of cost benefit analysis. Do you put your resources and energy and effort into the things that give you a higher probability of benefits? Or do you go into the one that really is up in the air? And sure, you can consider the concept of greater risk equals greater reward. This is true, but that's if the risk you take pans out. The other side of that tends to get overshadowed is big risk can still equal big loss. Big risk only creates big reward if it works out. And so I just made the decision that I don't have the patience. I don't have the time and the resources. I am unwilling to take that risk. If I'm going to take risks, if I'm going to put time and resources into something, it's something that I want to get, I want yields from. And so that's where I feel like a lot of us are. Because you've heard from the mistakes of your friends. You've heard from these content creators in this manosphere space who talk about the negatives, the downfalls, how the finesse culture, how women are just at it to get a bag, how they'll finesse you and leave you high and dry. break your heart just because it's fun. You hear these things. And so if you're like me, you're already you're a little turned off to the situation. It's like, man, it's ruthless out there. And it is. It is. And so you already know going into it, there's a lot of risk you have to take. And it seems like there's a lot more demerits. There are a lot more disadvantages that you would derive from the situation by taking that risk. Whereas if you take that same amount of time and energy and put it into the things that can guarantee a return, you're doing yourself a much better service. Now you find yourself caught in a crossroads. Or maybe you feel like you're approaching a crossroads. You feel that pressure, right? Because you also see some people that are in relationships and that might even seem happy, seem prospering. You probably have some associates somewhere that might even have kids now. Probably not by choice, but they got children, families. Maybe started their own businesses already, maybe have their own homes. So you see that they're moving forward in that space and they're doing relatively okay. And so the evidence is there that it's possible. It can be done. And so you constantly are questioning, well, should I be? Should I jump out there? Should I take the risk? I mean, I can handle it. Like I just said, right? You're at a space where I can afford to take a little bit of risk. I can take some chances. I can go out there and get buck wild and fuck up, quite honestly, and I'll be okay. You know, I'm on my Big Sean. Last night took in no, but tonight I bounce back. That cannot be the mindset. It can happen that way. And you can go about it that way. Because here's the thing. Should you have fun? Absolutely. Are there experiences, new things that you should try, experiments that you can do? All of that, yes. Find yourself, discover yourself. That's key. You have to understand you to know what you actually can sustainably put in to developing you. But you also have to prioritize things properly. Delayed gratification is a huge thing that I am an avid supporter of, because for those things that you most enjoy, that you most want to enjoy, it usually takes a significant amount of effort to manifest. As the expression goes, nothing worth having in life is easy to come by. And so that means you can spend the time now trying to get those short bursts of excitement, those short joys, an instant gratification. You can go out there and start sliding DMs, swiping on Tinder, going out to the hottest spots in your town, getting a friend to go talk to a friend's sister, cousin, maybe his ex. If you're getting at the ex, you're foul. But do you see how many nuts you can get off in a summer? If that's how you feeling, you can do those things. You can find yourself getting shit faced every Saturday just to see what that's like. Travel the world if you have the opportunity to do that. That's exciting. You can go after those things. Do drugs. Try cocaine for the first time. LSD. Heroin. Please don't do heroin. Don't. You can do all of those things with the tenacity, with the youthful energy to go after those things and probably bounce back. But think about the long term. Pan that out 10, 20 years. Where do you find yourself? Pan that out 10, 20 years and ask yourself, what do I have? Where am I? And where could I have been had I not done those things? Because again, going back to the position we find ourselves in, you're at a point where you can look back and deduce some things where it's like, man, right now, I really could be enjoying X, Y, and Z, but because I didn't put that time in then, I can't enjoy it now like I know I would be. Simple example. We all can relate to this. If we had financial advisors in, middle school, for a lot of us, in any capital, we would have invested in Bitcoin, in Amazon stock, hell, Google stock. Right now, we'd be balling, all of us. Tesla stock. If you had invested then just a handful of shares of any of those, we'd all be multimillionaires right now. And with how the world is moving right now, being a multimillionaire still isn't all that sweet, but it's sweeter than where most of us are at right now. And so if we had taken the time and the resources to do those things, then you get to another point in life down the line where it manifests into something you can enjoy more. Delayed gratification is key, and it pairs directly with prioritization. You have to prioritize the right things for yourself and not succumb to the pressures of punani, because it'll be there. Now you see that slight uptick in your market value. And on the female side of things, they also starting to feel themselves a little bit more. So the presentation is there. And some, we know, they a little aggressive. They'll push it up on you. And for some of us out here, if they throwing, we catching. And I'm going to leave that right there. That's short-sighted mindset. To be clear, enjoy yourself, but enjoy experiences and new things that are productive and that give something back to you. If you want to go skydiving for the first time, go skydiving. That is a life-changing experience. That's not something you'll look back on in 20 years and say, man, I shouldn't have wasted time skydiving. You'll look back and be like, damn, I remember that time I went skydiving. That was great. Created a memory. If you want to take a road trip with your homies somewhere, do that. See some new places, explore a new environment, different cultures. That has benefits. There is a return on investment. Trying to develop your stroke game on some chick that's crossfaded that you met last Tuesday on a Tinder swipe is not giving you a return on investment. Trying to slide in some Instagram thotties DMs, we won't even say thotty, it's just a chick that you've been checking out. She always in the timeline. You've been following for a couple months, years. Hey man, I can swing that. Where is the return on investment? OnlyFans, Pornhub, whatever else. Where is their return on investment? Sure, you might get some of that instant joy, but you'll get a week out. You'll get some months out. You'll get some years out. And you'll consider our OnlyFans was $14 a month. Did that for 6 months. That's $100 some odd dollars. No, it's not. It's almost $100, about $100. In those 6 months, I could have taken those $100. I could have bought a course, taught myself some simple accounting. I believe a Skillshare membership, I think I'm paying like, I don't know, $19 a month. Somewhere less than $20 a month. You could take that money you're putting into, let's call her Big Booty Belinda, who does her custom vids. Those little 30-second clips you're paying $14 a month for. The 10 photos that dropped on one post, and then you don't get another piece of content for 2 weeks. The 30-minute clip of a video that you now have to pay an additional $15 for to get the full version of. All of that you could be spending on Skillshare. Get access to a wide array of courses with actual marketable skills. Or if you have a passion, to develop that passion, learn to edit something. Edit better than Big Booty Belinda edits her explicit content. Half the video is just ass cracks and feet. All you see is legs up in the air and raunchy weave. You could be learning how to record, how to mix and master for those of you out there trying to be up and coming artists who feel like you have words to speak and say. How to mix it up and make it sound clean so you can be revered as something more than just a SoundCloud rapper. Whatever your passion is, you can be putting your money into that. It's crucial to consider those things. The return on investment, putting that into a woman at this stage in the game. At this stage in the game, let me make that clear. I'm not saying at no point putting an investment in a woman, it does not have guaranteed returns. There's a point on that bell curve where things even out, but it just isn't beneficial to you at this point in time. Because here's the thing, let's just dive into it for a second. What a lot of The guys in the manosphere space miss. The red pill, whatever you guys are listening to. It's usually these older men, which is sad because I really wish that older generations of men would create platforms to speak and share lessons with the younger generations, and they finally do it, and they all got sour grapes, and they're talking about their past traumas and pains because they were chasing after strippers, thoughts, and sugar babies. It never really got it right, and so now they're preaching to the younger generations, hey, you know what, just don't put any energy into them. They ain't gonna give you shit. They'll give you a hard life instead of a hard dick. Which is their experience. They haven't found the right ones. But the reality is, you have to reach a point where your personal value is enough to justify finding and developing with a woman that's going to give you guaranteed return on investment. So by stepping out there now, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Because I like to look at it as if it's on a tier list. Like they do, for characters, fighters, whatever. S tier to F tier. As a man, you start off in the game F tier off the bat. You're a young boy, you're a kid, you don't have anything. You are completely reliant on everybody and everything. Essentially the opposite of what the general expectations for man is. You're F tier. You get older, you move up. So now let's say we're at the point right now where you're on an average track. You got a little bit of money in your pocket to play with. You got your own whip, let's say. You have enough wits about you to be able to move through society in a way where you can socialize enough to at least get a conversation started with other people. You may or may not have been through a relationship or two. At the very least, you know what it looks like to approach and have a conversation with a female. So let's just say that puts you C tier. That's where you're at. But now you've seen enough things and you've seen enough people be with the baddies.
Long hair, brown skin with the fat ass.
Right? You've seen that. And so you're like, okay, well, I have access to that now. I'm old enough. I got enough going on. I got enough of a bag. I have a launch pad. Except the chick that you're describing, you're looking at is B tier minimum. Because remember, the tier system works different for men and women. For women, it's based off of appearances. For men, it's based off of your status. So you're C tier. Or no, let's be honest. At this stage, you're D tier. Because F, E, D. You're D tier. You want a B tier chick. You can't have that. Because again, it's just like for considering fighters. And when I say fighters, I'm talking like video games like Smash. Let's say Smash fighters. You have to fight within your D tier ranking. If a D tier fighter fights a C tier fighter, then everyone knows the C tier fighter is going to kick their ass. If an E tier fighter goes up against a B tier fighter, the B tier fighter is going to kick their ass. This is why that fighter is B tier. Well, as a man, if you're a D tier man, you do not swing. You don't swing in the weight class of the B tier woman. You don't have access to that. So by you stepping out at this time and putting resources, major resources, time, hours, long phone calls, extravagant dates, or just consistent dates where you're constantly dropping money, gifts, whatever else you're doing, you're still D tier. You're not putting those resources into moving yourself up a ranking so you have access to that. And so you will find yourself disappointed. It's going to happen. Even the most suave, the shooters of us out there, the most handsome, the tallest and the lightest of skin, which y'all need to stop putting all your praise in the light skins, but that's a different conversation. Even they, who might be on the higher end of D tier, maybe C tier, they still are not in the tier class of what they're aspiring for. There is disappointment across the board because the tier is determined by the status. And the status comes from the resources. What do you have resourcefully? How much money do you have? How many things have you created and developed? You have to focus on working on those things now, because the reality is, if you do that, you increase your status. Status equals value in this case. So you increase your value in that space. When you increase your value, guess what happens? You can now get access to higher tiered women, which means now you've done enough work. You've put 30,000 hours into your business. You put 30,000 hours into that education. You got that PhD now. You put 30,000 hours into your main job. You've put aside 15,000 that you can now go invest in stocks, crypto. Hell, put it into the side hustle and make that the main thing. Whatever it is. You have developed enough for yourself where now, in that 10-year time span, you've put yourself in a space where you can enjoy life. And that's not to say you take your foot off the gas, but you can now enjoy the things that you think you want to enjoy now. You want to go out to the club, get a little messed up. You can do that one time. Don't go overboard, but you can afford to get the big bottles if you want it. But specifically focus on what we're most concerned about. You can have access to those B tier and above women. This is what doesn't get covered in that manosphere red spill. We're going to just call them red spill. Since that's what I want to say anyways. The red spillers, that's what they're going to give you. Or sorry, that's not what they're going to give you. They don't give you that side of it. But that's the reality. So once you can piece that together, you see the mistake that you're making by not putting those resources in now. You see the mistake that you're making by not prioritizing the right things now, by prioritizing punani first and not progress. Progress over punani is crucial. It's crucial. Ideally, it would be awesome to find someone at this stage in the game who's going to be right there for you, who's going to support you through the struggle and help build you up and put you there. For me, that's ideal. I think the ideal setup for guys like myself, guys like us that are trying to put those 120 hours in on our 3 full-time jobs, 120% hustle time. The ideal relationship for us is a coworker type relationship, as in when we're at work, we're focused on work. You're focused on the job, getting our responsibilities done. In this case, that means the grind, the education, the side hustle, the business occupation. But when we leave work, occasionally we can do some off work related activity. We might go to a new restaurant, might hang out, play some games, watch a movie, whatever. But our relationship is predicated off of the work relationship. And so ideally, if we could find someone, a young lady who is on board with that 120% grind time, who sees that and will support it and get in line and help manifest it, who might even be on her own 10,000 hour journey. That's ideal because it prevents us from having to change up the priority. You keep the progress as main priority, and the punani is always second-rate priority. It would facilitate that. But the problem is that's really, really hard to find. The reality is that it's hard to shop that ideal to the modern woman, especially to the women we have access to at this stage in our lives. It's hard to shop that around because none of them want to hear you are second-rate priority. I'm putting the progress, my personal progress, ahead of everything else. Work, in every sense of the word, comes first. You will always be second. They don't want to hear that. And so you'd find difficulty in finding someone who could get behind that. And so we, as young men, will step away from that to be able to step in between some young ladies' legs, not realizing that you just shortchanged both of you in that situation. Because here's the formula. If a chick was being logical, if you stepped up to her as a man and said, "Don't know your name, but excuse me, miss. I'm into you. I'm interested. I want to try this thing and see where it goes. But you have to know that I have 3 part-time jobs, and being in a relationship with anyone, including yourself, would be another part-time job. And I don't have the time to take that up. So you're going to be part-time. You're going to be a part-time job for me. Meaning I'm not going to be able to dedicate exorbitant amounts of time to you. We're not going to go on a date every day or every week. I'm not going to be hitting you up to have extensive text conversations. You're not getting a good night text. We're not having long phone conversations or talking about nonsense till ridiculous hours into the morning, sending pointless snaps to one another. I'm not going to do that because I don't have time. My priorities right now are getting in my bag. And if you can get on board with that, then we can make this work. From a logical perspective, a woman would be like, oh man, that sounds fantastic. Put me on board. Where do I need to sign? Why? Because if I can boost myself up, if I can develop myself, if I can fortify the structure that is me incorporated enough that I can put myself in the position and put myself in the spaces where I can act the way that I want to act. If I can put those 10,000 hours in now, I won't have to in the future. It'll only require 5,000 hours to get the same return. If I can do the work now to put me in the position that I want to be in, that I need to be in, then that gives me the opportunity to put you in the position that you want to be in. Because the woman wants to be taken care of. She wants to know that she's secure, safe. But the problem is you have these inflated views of what that looks like because you see on social media these chicks getting flown out to resorts wearing Fashion Nova and Fenty X Savage, living that lifestyle that is being afforded to them by men who are well established, who have their bag in order and have their grind in order. And so they see that, and that's the base expectation. But you cannot go to Barry down the street who makes $28,000 a year and expect that treatment. But that's the chick that we go after. That's what you're prioritizing. Men, think about that. If you're trying to go for that, you both are going to be disappointed. She wants to live that lifestyle and be in that position. Well, if you help me build myself up to get there so I can be where I need to be, then I can put you where you want to be. You can have that lifestyle and I can give it to you. The game, we're missing it. So that's what it takes. But in order to make it happen, we have to put the time, energy, and resources in right now. You can enjoy all of those things in life. Every single one of us can, but the work begins now. So don't get after it now and get on your grind and your hustle now to impress a chick. Don't do it now to prove a point to anybody. Do it because you have that foresight. You know what returns you want to see. Do not prioritize punani now because you think it feels good, because you see other people doing it, because the pressure exists, because other people are doing it, because you get that itch that you just can't quite scratch the right way. Now, do what you need to do. Get a few off if you need to, but do not make it a priority. Do not find yourself falling and fawning over any one major young lady. Put those resources into developing so you can have access to whichever kind you want. And more importantly, you can put the time into it that you need to. So you don't have to worry about balancing it out and trying to prioritize the right things when they need to. Because a lot of us at this stage in our lives are going to have a lot of failed relationships because we can't put what we need to put into it. You don't have the skills, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the time. Go develop those things. Go get your skills up, man. Go get in your bag. Go develop so you can get to that point where you have your money making money for you. You can sit back, relax, and really enjoy the finer points of a good relationship. Priorities are the key. So in closing, I just want to say to all my brothers out there, feeling like you're entering a dry spell, a dry season, if you feel that way, or if you feel any pressure to be beating any backs out, think about where you are now and where you want to be. Think about what you've already learned from the mistakes you've already made, possibly in that space. Think about the things that you wish you had now and you could have enjoyed now due to not putting the right time and resources into it before. And let that serve as a reminder for what you can do for yourself in the future. Priorities are important. Progress over punani. This has been another episode of Menstruction, the place where the men of today build the structures for the men of tomorrow. I hope I have only been able to provide another beneficial brick to fortify the structure that is you incorporated. I'm Black Velvet. I love each and every one of you.